Hello, hello. Welcome to Revolutionize Your Marketing, Your Business, Your Life. I'm Rebel Risty, and I'm here today with John Dwyer. And we're going to talk a little bit about direct response and incentives and how to get Jerry Seinfeld to do marketing for your business. So, John, really quick for my audience before we get started, if you don't mind telling them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Reb, and I'm glad you threw that Jerry Seinfeld tag in because it's sometimes a little awkward for me to show off and bring that up by myself. So thank you for that. Um,
So we're
yeah, look,
talking
my
about it.
business. Yes, it's all right. Well, I scored that coup 10 years ago, and I've milked it ever since, I have to say. But yeah, so look, yeah, my business is called the Institute of Wow.com, and as that name infers, it's all about wow factor marketing. And we tend to look after mostly smaller to medium-sized businesses these days. And if they went to a traditional marketing agency, they'd probably be told, look, get people to fall in love with your brand, and then hopefully they'll taste your product. We flip that. We show businesses how to get people to taste their product so that they will hopefully fall in love with the brand. So, yeah, we're not the agency that's going to tell you to put your face on the side of a bus or the back of a taxi, because we know you probably don't have the budget to sponsor a gridiron team. And most of our clients really want the Facebook ads to happen today and food on the table tomorrow. So we tend to deal in what we call direct response marketing. And a lot of that direct response marketing is teaching businesses how to have a Happy Meal toy to take their customers' eyes off the price.
Yeah. So, okay, maybe just back up for a little bit for my audience. They're pretty savvy in marketing, but give us a little breakdown. What is direct response marketing?
Yeah, look, again, when I was saying that my business is called the Institute of Wow, so it's all about wow factor marketing. I guess direct response, as that tends to infer, is getting a direct response instantly, whether it's good or bad, a direct response instantly so that you know if your advertising dollars are working like tomorrow. Whereas if you were going down the traditional path of building your brand, and so you've decided to sponsor the local little basketball team because your child, plays for them, or you put your products or your services or your face, like real estate agents do, on bus stop shelters and things like that, then you
Yep.
really don't have a lot of measurability to that. Whereas when you come to us, we will hold, for example, a Facebook contest and give away your product or your service as a prize. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you were a dentist. We would say, okay, let's run a Facebook contest tomorrow, not next week, but tomorrow, and give away the Invisalign braces. Okay, so therefore, these days children don't want metal in their mouth, so therefore it's the Invisalign invisible
Yep.
braces. And now that's a $5,000 prize, which costs them about a third of that. What will happen is that we will get 1,000 entries in 1 week for spending $20 a day on Facebook. Only $20 a day. This is a real case study, by the way. So $20
Okay.
a day on Facebook. Whoever enters that is a parent of children with crooked teeth. You don't want to win braces if your children have straight teeth.
Right.
So
Of course.
therefore, within 7 days, that dentist, again, a case study, this was just before Christmas, that dentist got just over 1,000 entries in 1 week, spent $20 a day multiplied by 7 days, that's $140. And he's now got 999 people he can ring up and say that their children's got crooked teeth. You don't enter a contest to win braces unless your children has crooked teeth. So he doesn't have a database. He's got a red hot database that's screaming for his product.
Wow. That's such a great example, and it seems like a no-brainer. Why don't more people do this? Why aren't more businesses doing
It is.
this?
I mean, to us, it comes naturally. I sound like a bit of a show off when I say that, but that X factor comes naturally to us because we've been doing it so long. But I would say, Reb, the question I always ask, and my wife gets sick of me saying this, but we went to a restaurant last night. We spent $210 and they don't know who we are. So you can go to any restaurant in the world because let's face it, the entire world now is built on, well, it should be built on data. Amazon have shown us how to do it, right?
Hmm.
And yet you can go to any restaurant in America, in Australia, and then you go anywhere, and I guarantee you they will not ask for your details. We have a restaurant in Australia here, which has been a good client for a number of years. A few years ago, I said to him, "Stop all your advertising." So that saved him $750,000 a year, and just give your waitress, yeah, just give your
Yeah.
waitresses 50 cents. Give your waitress 50 cents for every name and contact detail they get from people who dine at the restaurant. And so, therefore, when she goes up and gives the check, she stands there and hands out 4 little pieces of paper, not a QR code, not an app. She just hands out old-fashioned style, 4 little pieces of paper, and they're about the size of a cigarette pack or an ace piece of diamonds, and it just says win dinner for 10 of your friends. At the end of the month, give us your name, your email, and your phone number. And of course, about 90% of people fill it in because she sits there waiting for them because she's going to get 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents. And guess what? Every afternoon at 3 o'clock, his secretary just sends out a text message to maybe 500 of his database. He's got 92,000 now on his database. So she'll send out 500 text messages, and I've given them all the text messages, and it just says, look, Chef Pierre would like to invite you to come to the Lobster Cave restaurant tonight for a dinner for two for $68. Now, nobody leaves less than $200 a couple because a bottle of water is $25, right? So therefore,
Right.
yeah. So therefore, what happens? She says to him, "We've got 75 seats, about 150 seats booked so far." So he says, "Send out one of John Dwyer's text messages." She sends that out, walks back into his office because I've been there to witness this, and says, "We are completely full within 10 minutes." He never advertises again. All he does is milk the data that he's collected.
Wow, that again, it just seems so simple when you say it. It seems so simple. Maybe my audience, like I said, is small business owners, marketers. How can they take lessons from what you're doing and apply that? Maybe what's a good first step to say, okay, client or small business owner, you've been thinking about it, you're spending X on, Google ads. Let's take that money. How do you get their mind to shift?
Look, the best way that I teach people to think, well, first of all, and this sounds a little arrogant, but any small, medium-sized business, it's very rare that they are skilled at marketing. They're a good technician, so they're a good lawnmower, or they're a good dentist, or they're a good butcher, baker, candlestick maker. But when they got their certificate from college, then not once did any of those teachers teach them how to attract customers. They
Mm-hmm.
they taught them how to be. I mean, the dental guy last week, before Christmas, he's blown away. He's got himself a model now that for $20 a day he can get 1,000 leads a week. I mean, that's parents
Yeah,
with children with
it's
crooked
crazy.
teeth. And all that happens, by the way, is that he can't ring them. He said to me, "Look, this is overwhelming." And I said, "Well, if you want 500 leads a week, just spend $10 a day." I mean, it's just very predictable. So that's the good thing. And
It's math.
if anybody comes to me and says they're going to spend $10 a day on Facebook, I just tell them to go and get a job. They shouldn't be running a business. You're not going to get a result for $10 a day normally. But in this contest formula, the way that we do it, and the reason I'm familiar with the contests is that I'm probably the contest king in Australia for McDonald's and KFC and Rupert Murdoch's newspapers. Did all the scratch bingos, and we do $1 million giveaways every week. So it's par for the course. So we're going to look upon this very differently from a traditional advertising agency. So we're going to give them a bucket load of leads. But what happens is that the business owner normally is overwhelmed. He said, "Look, I can't get to them." So we have our AI Genie, which is a AI agent, and she has a wonderful human voice. She can ring all 1,000 of them within an hour and say, "Look, you did not win. Thank you very much." Within an hour of the draw, okay, the weekly draw,
Right.
and she can say, "Look, unfortunately you didn't win, but obviously your children have, the need for braces." I was going to say crooked teeth, but she doesn't quite say that. Um, and
Thankfully.
and the good news for you is that guess what? We have a special deal on our invisible braces, okay, our clear aligner braces, and it's only available until Friday. And what we do is that we give that dental practice a bunch of these vacation vouchers. And these vacation vouchers we give to the dentist for less than $50. And so therefore that gives them 3 nights in New York or Las Vegas or Orlando for absolutely free, because the hotels
Uh-huh.
that we have an association with American hotels whereby and Australian, but American hotels right throughout America, whereby they're running at 30% vacancy for most of the year. The only time they're booked out is during school vacations, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we work with a travel company that's given us access to unsold hotel rooms right around America. And what we do is that these hotels are happy to give up 3 nights accommodation for free in the hope that whoever stays there will spend money on food and beverage. That's how they get their payback, right? So
Interesting.
we package this up as a Happy Meal toy, and we give this to the dentist. We say, "Look, you can get these vacation vouchers worth $1,000. You give them to people when they buy your Invisalign braces. So they're giving you $5,000. You've just got a Happy Meal toy that's worth $1,000 for $50. So what happens? The robot says, "Look, you didn't win the contest to win invisible braces, but guess what? We've got an incredible deal. There's a payment plan we have this week that you can actually get the invisible braces for your child for less than $197, and then it's a payment plan. And guess what? If you get in by Friday, we'll give you a free vacation." Shut the gate.
Huh.
And what we've
Wow.
found is our AI robot gets a better conversion rate than a human, and our AI robot can ring 1,000 people within an hour.
Wow. And I love that you're bringing in this idea of AI into something that seems kind of traditional, right? The direct response. Because we're
Mm.
here at Rebel, we're a very AI forward agency as well. How, because we do find as we're going out there, some clients are just scared of AI. Like you said, what if she did say, hey, your children have crooked teeth or something weird like that? How are you getting over that? Or how is your system built so it's checking itself or providing those securities for your clients?
Yeah, look, we've only launched it, so therefore, because AI is only a couple of years old anyway, but we've only just launched this in the last few weeks. It's been spectacular, absolutely spectacular, the success that it has got. Because a lot of people think that an AI receptionist is just going to answer the phone and take the name and number and then text you the detail. Ours is knowledge based, and so when people come onto our AI Genie program, the robot will have, it sounds ridiculous, but and we call it robot because I've been to a lot of AI conferences, and the guy up on stage or the girl up on stage normally talks about AI agents. Well, most small
Mhm.
businesses, particularly tradesmen who we're dealing with a lot because they can't get to their phone, so we get the robot to answer for them. They don't know what an AI agent is. So the easiest thing is, because a few of them grew up during the Jetsons, is just call it a robot. Just say, look, it's an AI robot. And what amazes me too, well, what amazes me, Reb, is that I look at all these techie companies compared to you and me being a marketing company, and they're promoting their AI receptionist services, and they've got the scariest looking AI robot you've ever seen. It looks like a gremlin that it would probably kill all of your family. On our page, which is aigenienow.com, then we made sure that the robots look like Miss World or George Clooney. Okay, so therefore, all of our
Right.
robots. Of course, it's there's no such thing as the robot. It's just a voice at the other end of the phone. But because we're a marketing company, we realise if we're talking to a plumber or a electrician or builder, they need to go, well, what's this all about? I'm going to have something answer my phone. So we make sure that the robot looks like Miss World. And then they get it. They go, oh, okay, I've got that robot answering my phone. Now, what
Got it.
happens is that when they come on board, the robot has a 20-minute conversation with them. We don't get them to fill in a taxation form questionnaire because nobody's going to spend time doing that. So we say to
Right.
them, look, just have a 20-minute conversation with our robot. He or she will, know all about your business. They'll ask you about your website and your landing pages and all sorts of things. And at the end of that 20-minute call, within an hour, we know more about your business than you do. And so what happens then is that we stress test the voice. The voice can be American, Australian, English. It can be very cheeky like Crocodile Dundee, or it can be very professional. You know all of this, of course. Um, and then, yeah, we stress test it. So therefore, when it goes live, which is normally within a week, and again, the speed is our middle name. So most of these AI sort of receptionist businesses take about a month to 6 weeks to get something going. So we're up and running within a week. And we haven't had an issue at all, because the point is that it's stress test regularly, and so therefore the robot basically sticks to the knowledge base that it's been given. So it won't be going, whatever you've given it in terms of its knowledge base, that's all it will choose from.
Got it. That's so freaking cool. Um,
Mm.
as you're talking, you're describing. I love the idea of robot because, we've been also kind of struggling with the whole agent. We're calling our systems. It's like, how do you just kind of break it down for the average person? What types of businesses are best built for this type of direct response using the robot with the calling? It makes sense for restaurants and, dentists because they have kind of like this really tangible thing, a dessert or Invisalign. How does like a marketing agency like me, how do we tap into this type of strategy?
Well, we have to drink our own Kool-Aid from time to time. So therefore, if we've got a slow month, generally speaking, what I will do is, do what I preach, and that is we will hold a contest and we will say online, and LinkedIn is more likely our audience.
Yep.
How would you like to win a month's consultancy with John Dwyer? Okay, so therefore I'll put Seinfeld and all the rubbish that I've done up, next to me so that
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
that this.
I
Yeah.
love it.
And so therefore what happens is that we will get, because we're B2B, not B2C, so we're business
Hmm.
to business. We're not going to get 1,000 entries, and we don't want 1,000 entries anyway, but we might get 50 to 100 entries over the course of a few weeks. every one of those people has basically put their hand up and glowed in the dark and said, look, I would love to have a month's worth of marketing consultancy with these people. They look like they've got half a clue. And of course, we give one away, and then we've got 99 people to ring up and say, look, you didn't win, but obviously you're in need of marketing assistance. This is how we can help you. And when they actually click the ad and go through to the entry page, which is a landing page, we pre-qualify them. So therefore, I don't go ringing up people who don't have teeth and haven't got a job. So therefore, we will ask them, how long have you been in business? What's your marketing budget each year? Do you have any clue when it comes to, client acquisition? Have you tested Facebook before, or blah, 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 blah. So what happens is that then the 100, let's say 100 people that entered my contest to win me, we might sift that down to, we give one away, but we might find that 30 of them are just not worth me talking to them. It'd be silly. I'd be wasting my time because, they've got a paper run. All right. But
Right.
those who have got a good business, we've already pre-qualified them by going through that system, and you could do exactly the same for your business.
Okay, I love that. I love that. It is a different approach. I never would in a million years thought about doing a
Yeah.
month of consulting, but hey, if it gets you really good leads, it makes sense, and it definitely is something different. I have not seen an agency do that, at least not in my
Well,
work.
because you're in the game that you're in, you'd be familiar with Frank Kern and, Ryan Dias and Russell Brunson
Yeah.
and ClickFunnels. Yeah. So I joined a club in Phoenix called the Genius Network, and it's run by a guy called Joe Polish. And he's got all the cool kids at lunchtime as part of that club. So you've got your Anthony Robbins and you've got your Russell Brunsons from ClickFunnels and so forth and so on. And one of the guys that's part of that whole thing, obviously for me it's more expensive because it's a 25K a year club, but I've got to fly from Australia backwards and forwards to Phoenix 3 times a year. So I'm probably, paying more than anyone else. But there's one member of that club who has a fantastic saying, and I've stolen it. He says, look, if you can help people, prove to you can help them by actually helping them. And it's just so basically it's called sampling. So if you've got a
Yeah,
seafood
I
shop,
love it.
I always say to people, if I had a seafood shop, I'd have hostesses out at lunchtime and dinner time handing out calamari samples and hoping that when they taste them, they'd come in and buy the more expensive barramundi.
Yeah.
And so the way I look at it is that, and you're doing it right here, this is a classic example today, show them you can help them by actually helping them. And then, basically you're sampling like the calamari outside the fish shop. And then there's a good chance that a percentage of those will go, wow, I can't live without this girl or without this guy. I'm going to talk to them more. And just one thing, I've got to tell you about the AI Genie thing. A classic case study was a guy that had 12 trucks on the road. He's a tradesman and he does air conditioning. And so therefore he said that on a hot day here in Australia, and we have quite a few hot days, he would get 100 calls. But his Filipino girls, which he outsourced to a call centre in the Philippines,
Hmm.
he had 3 of them answering the phone. They could only ever answer 60 of those 100 calls. They couldn't get to the 40. They had the abandonment of 40%. And they'd get put on hold, and people don't sit on hold anymore. They just ring
Right,
up
of course
another
not.
exit. So when we replaced those girls and put the AI Genie in, he now answers 100% of 100 calls. And he said his conversion rate on that extra 40 calls that he answers over the course of a week has added $17,000 a week profit to his business
Wow.
because he's not losing those calls anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it goes around that same idea too, is like the person you've got to pick up the phone every time, you've got to get back to people quickly, and it's hard. And as those numbers go up, I mean, that's one of the things that we're trying to help our clients and our fellow marketers is the scaling.
Yep.
Growing slowly is doable, but scaling, because hitting those types of numbers and getting back to people in an efficient way is just challenging.
Yep.
So I
Well, the
love
pro-
that.
problem the problem for us is that because I'll hold up Exhibit A here, but one of the books that I've written, because when you do the seminar circuit, you've got to write a damn book, and it's called the Avalanche Leads Formula. Excuse the photo. I think I might have aged a little bit since then, but anyway, so it's called the Avalanche Leads Formula, and so therefore we're into getting big leads. So Women's Magazine here in Australia last year we got 102,000 leads for them in 1 week. No, we got the population in Australia of California, so 100,000 leads in a week for Australia is pretty good, right?
Wow.
Um, Now, the point is, even a magazine group, as big as they are, can't get back to those people, or they couldn't at this time last year. Now we can get back to those entire 100,000 people within a day because we've got a road ringing that, who sounds
Got
like
it.
a real person. Sounds
Okay.
like a real person.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Well, I wouldn't feel satisfied if I let you go without telling us your Jerry Seinfeld story and how
Um,
that all came about.
Reb, I've never mentioned this to any to anyone. You know what? On the third year of the 3-year contract of getting Seinfeld to be the spokesman for this bank down under, I had to go back all the time. And I said to him on the third year, Jerry, you don't have a website. Now, this was 10 years ago, so he has now, but he didn't have a website. And I said to him, can you imagine how many Seinfeld caps or, T-shirts you could sell? And he had reading glasses on at the time. And he did what the school headmaster used to do to me when I was, told to leave the class. He put them down on the edge of his, and he looked over and he said, JD, do I look like I need to sell any caps or T-shirts? and, and I said, of course, you're Jerry Seinfeld. You got more money than God, And anyway, he said to me, look, why would I need a website? He said, I've looked at yours. He said, I'm on there more than you. Right? So he knows I've milked it, but how it came about was that a bank down under, which was a challenger brand, and I suspect that you're in the same boat that we are, Reb, and that is you tend to attract challenger brands. In other words, I don't look after Coca-Cola or Kellogg's or Nike. I look after people who might be doing that sort of stuff, but they're a challenger brand. They're never going to be the 40-ton gorilla. And so therefore, if a little corner shop is opposite Costco, we say to them, don't try and beat Costco on price. You'll never win. However,
Right.
if you say for every $100 you spend in my little shop, I will give you a point, and when you save up 5 points, which meant you spent $500 with me, I'll give you a free vacation for 3 nights in Vegas, and this cost them $50. $50 for the 500 they spent is equivalent to a 10% discount. But what do you think? Do you reckon that might be a hotter, a rocket fuel for the business? Of course. So
Yeah.
we get them to think that way. And one of the clients down under was a challenger brand. It was a bank called the Greater. Okay, and look, they were the 250th biggest business in Australia, but they weren't the Wells Fargo, and they were trying to combat the Wells Fargo bank by interest rates. They were saying get a home loan at 6.2%. Well, the bank would beat them, like the big 40-ton gorilla banks would beat them within a heartbeat, and they'd be 6.1%. I said, you're never going to win. So I introduced them to a discount travel company that I've been doing some TV commercials for, and we came out with a campaign which said, get a home loan or swap from the Wells Fargo banks and come across to us, and you get a free vacation. And all we did to pay for that was stop the honeymoon rate. Because as you know, when you go to get a home loan, they'll give you a 1% break for the first year and then it will jump back up again.
Right.
I said, no, no, no. Every bank does that. Don't do everything. Don't do something everyone else does. Just give that 1% to the travel company and they'll give you an unbelievable Disneyland holiday. And that's what we did. So we came on TV. They made billions and billions and billions of dollars out of this in the first few years. It just went nuts. And the guy that you're talking to is a complete moron because I charged a fee, not a percentage. Right? I'm an idiot. And so around about 4 years into what was a 10-year project, I said to them, look, we've scooped up all the low-lying fruit. Let's go for the next level. And we got Jerry Seinfeld. I annoyed the daylights out of him. I wrote to George Shapiro, his manager, over and over and over again. And eventually, when I said to Jerry, why did he say yes? Because he came on TV and social media down under and just said, get a home loan, get a free vacation. And when you put Seinfeld with something that was already successful, you can imagine it just exploded. It was
Right.
on 60 Minutes. It was on all the Today programs. It was big news. Seinfeld's come out of retirement to do this advertising campaign. And I said to Jerry, why did you say yes? He said, well, I like the sarcastic tone that you wanted me to do, get a home loan, get a free vacation. He said, the other thing is, I thought if I didn't say yes, you'd never go away.
Hey, so persistence or bugging people
Yeah,
works.
well, my little phrase, and I tell this to my 6 millennials, persistence beats intelligence. And for me, that's good because I'm not that intelligent.
Well, I don't know about that. But this has been really fun. And I feel like I've learned a lot, and you've certainly given me some things, some ideas to think about for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, John, if somebody would like to learn more about your robots or get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Can you imagine, Reb, that only just 3 or 4 years ago, if you said that to someone, how does anyone get hold of your robots? You'd just think, you'd say they've got to go to an asylum, wouldn't you? But now it's part of our vernacular. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Look, the best way is, just look, my email is john at theinstituteofwow.com. So that's my email. So feel free to send me an email. My website is theinstituteofwow, wow.com. And if you wanted to have a look at the AI robot stuff, then that's AI Genie, and Genie is spelt Robin Williams style, not the TV show. So it's AIGENIE, AI Genie now, AIGenienow.com. And it's probably worth having a look at that because you can actually do a test call with one of our robots. So therefore, you can actually just put your details in. Again, we're capturing data. And then you can have a 2 or 3 minute call with the robot and ask whatever questions you like, and you can see it happening in front of you.
Ah, that is so freaking cool. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, John. I really appreciate you being a guest and sharing your knowledge and your stories. We'll definitely have to have you back. I would love to learn more and see how things evolve with your Genie robot and share with you what we're doing too.
My
So,
pleasure.
and for all of my guests and viewers, we at Rebel, we're revolutionizing this year with AI as well, our robots and systems to help make your life easier, whether you're creating content, newsletters, blogs, emails. It's all, it's time for us to start figuring out how to use our robots better. So until next time, enjoy the show and thank you.
Good stuff.
All right. And